No one spoke it out loud, but everyone thought it. Each man was on high alert versus phantom bears lurking in the shadows. The five got to a rundown house in the heart of a forgotten forest. It wasn't a homemade log cabin, but a moderately big house that had fallen to outward neglect. "This is it," Dean said to the crew. The four men looked to this anomaly in wonder, though it was old news to Dean. His family owned this place in his childhood, and he did now. The stairs creaked when he approached, but the familiar sounds were a comfort to Dean, not an ominous mystery. When he turned on the lights, they found a space that ran counter to the derelict condition of the outside. Along with the electricity, it had all the other modern conveniences: TV, stove, couches, outlets. There was a table set up where Dean pointed to put the money on, like it was a sick patient in need of surgery. The robbers meticulously counted out the money without conversation, each man eyeing the other for any signs of deception. It was more tense than the robbery in some regards, due to the fact the adrenaline wasn't there to block out their subconscious doubts. After the money was divided 5 ways, everyone rested a bit easier. It was then that Dean made his proposal. Anyone could stay the night and leave at first light. Or they could take one of his junk cars, drive up to the train station, and hop a train to anywhere their heart desired. Dean wasn't quite welcoming, but by the same note, he had to extend some measure of hospitality since this was his house and his idea. All of them opted to make their way to the train station, which was about an hour away by Dean's estimate, using a vague and rather archaic method of directions he had written out. Lawford was completely done with masks, so he took a yellow Kia with a loud muffler and went off into the night. While the other 3, Sammy, Frank, and Bishop, didn't mind snaring a black 97 Bronco for the sake of safety. Dean made it 100% clear that after they left the house, they were not to return for any reason, and if they remembered anything, they'd best try and forget it. Bishop drove the Bronco, and they all decided to keep on their masks. Bishop said he'd keep the car and take his chances that it wouldn't fall apart on the open road, but with the way the vehicle was coughing black smoke, he was seriously beginning to reassess his choice. "So you went to Chernobyl?" Bishop asked Sammy. "Again, yes. Why would you do that? What's even there?" said Frank, cradling his duffel bag of money like a child. "It's a city, just left right in the middle of what they were doing, living their lives one moment, homeless and on the run the next," Sammy explained. "So, nothing's there?" Bishop said as a declaration. "Fine, if you say so," Sammy agreed with defeat in his voice. What was the point of explaining things to people that were incapable of comprehending? "You seem to like doing stupid, dangerous shit just to say you did it. We're probably gonna find out one day you were rich all along and you never needed the money anyways." Sammy stayed quiet because that was dangerously close to the truth. "I never thought of getting cancer as fun, but I mean, do what you like," Bishop said with a smile. The SUV was crawling through the darkness of uncharted terrain, through roads that felt more like suggestions of civilization than paths. In the dark stretched to nothingness, a strong gust of wind escaped from the blackness. In a split second, a leaf fell on top of the glass. Then another. Bishop slowed the vehicle down as a precaution. The violent maelstrom of movement created a tornado of leaves. "What the fuck?" Frank yelled, as if cursing nature herself. Bishop fought the strength of the wind when he felt himself drifting in the middle of its unbridled fury. The wind howled, rattling the windows, and the leaves seemed as if reaching out with abstract arms. "I think we should wait here. Even if I can get through this, there ain't no way in hell I'd see the turnoffs," Bishop explained. "Have any of you seen anything like that?" Frank asked. "No, and I've been to some wild places," Sammy said. "It couldn't last that long, whatever this is," Bishop started to say before he was violently interrupted by the driver's side door window being smashed open. Before anyone in the car even thought to make a move, piles of dry leaves pushed into the vehicle and pulled the driver out. There was only a muffled scream screeched over the angry wind. The leaves poured out of the car just as deliberately as it entered. Sammy reflexively attempted to pull the door open, but Frank leaned over him and pulled his hand back. "The fuck are you doing?" said Old Blue Eyes. Sammy wanted to help, not necessarily because he was a good and noble person, but more so the occurrence itself was painfully intriguing. "Let me go, Frank." "Not while I'm in this fucking car." "We might not get another chance," Sammy insisted, yelling just to keep his voice over the violent windstorm. Frank let go because he knew he couldn't babysit him anyways. The violent winds relented a bit when Sammy exited, and it moved with the precision of a tornado deeper into the brush. Frank jumped from the back seat to the driver's seat to see if the car had any life left in it. Sammy chased after the anomalous thing, but after a few steps, he couldn't see it in the dark. He could only hear the rustling in the distance. Driven on by an insatiable urge to push his limits over the voice inside him that screamed for reason, he pushed into the blackness. Frank found that the keys were still in the ignition. He started the car and gave Sammy at least a moment's consideration. He rolled down the broken window, then rolled his own eyes at the asinine gesture. "Sammy, I'm gonna go. If you don't come the fuck on, I'm leaving." Frank stared out into the void with only the sounds of distant whistles to greet him. It didn't matter if Sammy heard it or not. He gave him the heads up, which was much better than most people got. He pulled off and took to the dirt path slowly. When he got a minute up the road, his way was blocked by the yellow Kia Lawford had taken. The red of the taillights gave the dark forest an ominous glow of menace. Frank didn't bother with caution. He didn't respect too much caution, as it were. Too much waiting made pussies of all of us. He took his pistol out and had his money hanging from his duffel bag on his back. That bag wasn't leaving his sight. He stormed the Kia, only to find that no one was in the driver's seat. His window was broken too, the same way theirs was. Frank whirled around looking for the ambush. There had to be something behind this that he could shoot. He fired around in the air, partway because of frustration and partway to beat the bushes to see what fell out. Sammy heard a distant pistol shot, but he couldn't address that. He had spent too much time fumbling in the dark to give up now. He still heard the faint whisper of the winds. He took out his cell phone and hit the flashlight app. That weak light was his only sanctuary from the utter darkness. He saw at a distance, at the place where his light died, movement from the trees. Slowly, Sammy pulled his pistol from his duffel bag and pressed on. There, dangling from the trees, was Bishop. He was broken with wounds that looked as if they were far beyond fixing. His arms and legs dangled like vines while his body rested on a branch. Sammy didn't hesitate in the slightest. He climbed the tree with the precision of a child on the playground. Bishop was unmoving, and Sammy assumed he was dead. He put his gun in his bag with the intention of pushing him out of the tree and letting him fall. As he reached out, Bishop took a long, gasping breath as if he had awoken from unconsciousness. The battered man half turned, broken bones in his neck, audibly cracking in the process. "I'm gonna get you down," Sammy said confidently. "Where is it?" Bishop spoke through gargling blood-filled breaths. "It?" Sammy came back with confusion. Bishop didn't say more. He couldn't. He screamed out in extreme pain when Sammy attempted to carefully drag him from the tree branch. How he managed to get up there at all was quite a mystery to him. Sammy tried to climb down with his duffel bag, but was finding it difficult to toggle between two burdens. He dropped his bag out of the tree, which made him think, where the hell was Bishop's haul? Frank doubled back to the car and decided to swap out his weak-ass pistol for his assault rifle in the trunk. He had a flashlight attachment that he was glad he brought, but didn't know why he'd particularly need it. He knew now. He scanned Lawford's Kia with the help of his man-made torch and noticed something curious. There was a $20 bill laying on top of a pile of dried leaves. Frank connected the dots and found a few more bills thrown about haphazardly into the forest. Frank began following the loose bills deeper into the brush like breadcrumbs. Blue Eyes realized the Hansel and Gretel of it all, but it didn't matter to him. If there was a house made of money over gingerbread, he'd risk tossing a witch into an oven. His light revealed a cavernous crater that he wasn't sure had a survivable drop, even with his strong light shining down. He also saw dollars thrown into the hole, so he was certainly going to find a way down. After pacing the darkened perimeter, Frank found a slightly sloped path. Though he slid down just as much as he walked, he was motivated to delve deeper.